All right, folks, we are good to go. I'm going to call this to order. Normally we start with public comments, but we're not going to do that tonight. Gloria, come on up.
Where's the crowd?
Here. Gloria, when did you join this community?
I moved here about 10 years ago,
And when did you start at the foundation?
in 2011.
In 2011. Gloria is a face that many of you recognize, and for you that are on
Watching
TV,
on TV.
She has been with the foundation forever. She has done an outstanding job of taking it to a whole new level. There are people out in the crowd shaking their head yes, who I know strongly
Nodding
believe that.
yes, nodding
yes. Gloria has extremely disappointed my wife because Gloria is retiring on Friday and is going to be moving to Tampa area eventually. Gloria and my wife are good friends. But we as a board, there are certain people who are just influential in the community. We really want to say thank you very much. The community and the Celebration Foundation and everything just wouldn't be what they are without you. So I really want to thank you very, very much. Having been married for 32 years, I did what every married man does, and I said, Sandy, who is my wife, I need a gift. And she said, I've got somewhere to go, and I said, I know, I need a gift. And I called Gloria, and Gloria said, I have a meeting at 6, I know, be here. So, this is not from CROA, this is from the board. I want to thank the whole board. This is a board gift for you.
Thank you.
Please open it.
I was really trying to slide out quietly, so thank you guys. I really appreciate it. Oh, how fabulous is that?
Of course, a Columbia pitcher has to be full. So if you look inside of it,
Am I treating everybody this means?
we were
Not everybody.
Columbia, of course, is in celebration, but
It's
Gloria moving to the
Tampa.
West Coast is also there. So this can be used multi-locational.
I appreciate
And
this.
but I do really want to encourage everybody. She's working through this Friday. Tell people, send her an email, give her a thanks, stop by the foundation. I understand she's bored and would love to take time out.
And you're going to be here tomorrow night for Lights and Lemonade.
Of course I will.
So if you want to
Yep.
come personally to see Gloria and give her a hug, she'll
I'll be here
here.
working my busy hands off, but I would just share 1 minute, not even a minute, but I've always, maybe I won't.
Oh,
The foundation has never been a job for me. It's always been a passion. I love and I don't work independently. I'm not an island. I've got board members, many of you have served on my board and many of you have been volunteers, and it's not about me. I've always said it's about the foundation. It's just a wonderful, we contribute a lot to the community and I'm very proud of it. So I look forward to its growth in the future. I think I've got it on good footing, and now it's just, all it can do is keep going up. So I encourage you to get to know the foundation, and I am gonna go be grandma, and I'm happy tomorrow night, if you would like to see my grandbaby, I will be happy to show you a dozen or so pictures, so.
Again, thank you very much.
Thank you. You're all getting hugs and kisses, because you know that's part of the hallmark of the foundation is, because I love you all. I love you. So thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you, darling. Oh, I'll be around. I'm not, I'll be around. Thank you all.
Talk to you soon.
Thank you. I'm still around for a couple of days, and then I'll be back in October. So, but I'll see you all at Lights and Lemonade tomorrow.
Take care.
Welcome to the neighborhood.
So it's a celebration, as many of us know, is a very special community. And a community is not houses, it's people. And every once in a while, it's really nice to honor somebody who's one of those special people. Thank you very much for making her feel welcome tonight. Okay, public comments. Got 3 people signed up. Joe Browning, number 1.
Joe Growney, 860 Spring Park Loop, celebration, 18 years here. And that was a great intro for me, because I'm here for one purpose, and that is to thank the board. I've never done this before, so it's
What,
strange
thanks
to
to the
me.
board?
It's hard to be on the other side too.
Exactly right. As Vaughn knows, I've criticized the board many times over the years, but for this board and the one that preceded it, a great appreciation for the stewardship of the community, not special interests, not pet projects. And I just look around. Wherever you go, you see improvement. You see results. I don't compliment effort. I compliment results, and thank you. Now, why am I here? I said 2 boards. Why am I here 18, 12, how many months later? I'm adamantly opposed to the county participation in the city corridor. I would never compliment any board member that voted for that. So I found it was unanimous opposed to it, so I'm here complimenting everybody. Thank you, this one and the one before, for your great work.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
The next person I have is Al Groves.
Good evening, Al Groves, 506 Sycamore Street. I rise tonight to comment on the new CCFC also. However, it looks like it's a love fest tonight. I'm not here to excoriate you or your actions, or rather to praise you for them. Since the opening on Saturday the 14th, I've been conversing with the board directly on issues about the CCFC related to regarding it as a CROA amenity, make sure it's run like every other CROA amenity, and has the needed operation procedures to be available as an amenity for every CROA resident owner. You've acknowledged my inputs and taken the interim actions necessary to make the complex accessible, all while working on the dilemma of the long-term 26% cost recovery factor and long-term access procedures. I commend you for it. Keep up the good work. But I still got 2 minutes, so go ahead. Oh, by the way, as leaders of the community, it's essential that you continuously reach out to encourage and cajole owner residents into active community participation. We have some wonderfully accomplished and individuals with plenty of expertise in many different fields. And I feel it would have been helpful to have more eyes on the subject in the CCFC effort. And you'll need to have more community involvement designed in a way that makes more participation easier and efficient. And to do so, you'll need to implement more of an electronic town hall concept. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. We're 2-0.
I would like to follow up on Al's comments just a little. He has followed up with emails. They've been positive. We love constructive criticism, and by that I mean, and Steve and team jump on things quickly. We love it from the community. Please continue to do so. Civic corridor, a lot of lessons learned. We have not tried to hide those this year, and we will try to improve a lot as we go forward. Third person I have, Danny Bumpus. And if you make us 3 for 3, we'll just adjourn.
I feel bad. I'm not here with compliments. I'm here with good news. So good news is almost as good as compliments. So I came before you a few months ago talking about impact fees. So to bring everyone up to date, in December, the county started charging about $18,000 for impact fees, which include the school and transportation, some things for garage apartments, which they call accessory living units. We formed a very loose committee, and I was volunteered to spearhead an effort to try to fix that. So to make a long story short, I had to meet with the county. We had to amend the original PD documents, which were 1,100 pages of stuff, not that thick. It took a while to get that. I was the applicant. I needed Celebration Company's approval to authorization to do that, and they gave it to me. So meeting with Dave Tomac and staff several times around, I made the submittal, and Monday I got the letter, it was approved. So from now on, anybody that wants to do a garage apartment, there will be no $18,000 in impact fees. I've notified everybody that was on our loose committee, but if anybody's listening or if you hear anybody doing a garage apartment, no impact fees. If you go down to the building department and they say we want impact fees, I can give you a copy of a letter that says, no, there are no impact fees. So anyway, good news.
First off, a hand. And Steve, for the Friday flash, not this Friday, but in a week or 2 weeks, if you and JR could work with Danny a little, just to put a little article in there, but to say it right, because I think You know, there were a lot of garage projects that were starting to get put on hold, about 18,000 in impact fees, so this is huge, and I really do appreciate it very much.
Can get us, Town Hall, the letter, and then that way if someone's applying, we can give it to them to community standards.
I also want to just say, Dan, for those of you that don't know, Danny was the architect of the concession stand building at the complex, and people have raved about it. They raved about the entire complex and the way it looks, and I want to just thank you, as always. You know, you and I have known each other 25 years or so.
I've been here 26 or.
Yeah, a very long time.
Yeah.
And I know that you are a person of great integrity, but also great skill, and I really appreciate all that you do and that you contribute to this community. And that building is a wonderful example of that, so thank you.
Thank you.
Well, and not only that, but he was the owners, he was our representative
Yeah.
through the entire process. So the reason why it looks as great as it does is because we had a terrific owner's representative. So thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
all your service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Those are the three people who signed up. Would anyone else like to comment? Because, just as a refresher, this is when we take comments up front, and then we won't during the meeting. Okay, no one getting up. Steve, can I verify the meeting is properly noticed?
Yes, it was.
And that we have a quorum?
Yes, you do.
For the sake of the audience, on the phone, we have David Anderson. Marianne couldn't be with us tonight, and Kevin will be joining us shortly. So with that, can we say the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second? Vanessa's the second. Any changes at all, or any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, David. Okay, approval of minutes. Motion to approve?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Perfect. Committee reports. Any questions for any of the committees? Okay, moving on. Liaison report, CDD. Who is our liaison?
I got lots of liaison.
Okay.
but that is not one.
I'll go first. Last night, there was a meeting about the bike lanes. And I'm going to ask all the board members to speak if they want. It was quite a meeting. It was very well attended. I don't know how many of you were here, but I would think there was probably 350, 400 people here last night. The bike lanes will impact everyone. We just want to make sure everybody's aware of that. They're talking about 6, 7 foot parking on both sides, then a 5 foot bike lane, reducing the travel lanes to about 9 feet, all the way out to 192, elimination of left turn lanes. There are safety issues that they're very in favor of for doing it. There are also safety issues for people who are not in favor of doing this. CROA has not been part of this process. It's been the county and certain members of CDD that have been part of it. What we want to do is make sure that everybody is aware that this issue is going on. Whether you're pro or con, CROA doesn't care. But we do want people to be aware, because if it happens, it's going to affect everybody's life. And as long as you're well informed, then we feel we've done our job, because this is not one under our jurisdiction, but everybody travels the roads in that. So if you were at the meeting and you got friends who need it, tell them. I know it's on the back porch, the front porch, and other grapevines too. So get the facts, and please make your comments known if you have any. Any board members like that? Any comments to that?
I just, last night at the meeting, initially, the county, and I don't remember her name or title, made an intro and made a statement that the county and its engineers that they hired were in consultation with the different boards within the town. And I would like to say that personally, I was never contacted as a CROA member, and I just wanted to make that clear that, and maybe the other board members want to say one way or another, but I personally wasn't contacted, so I didn't know anything about, I wasn't contacted as a board member to or in any way really, to deal with this at all, so. That's all.
I know last night it was stated that the CROA board, and it was, because it was an open, or it was not an open discussion, literally, they did their presentation, and then you could walk around and ask questions. So there was no opportunity at all for dialogue. I know that's not the way we usually do it at CDD or at CROA, but that was the forum that they chose for their presentation. Upon the conversation at the beginning of their presentation, the county said that they had been involved with each and every entity in Celebration, and that was a false statement. When I went up and asked her initially, what was 3 years ago? Well, I was president for CROA 3 years ago, and I can guarantee you I had no idea that this was going on. We were involved in the conversation with regards to the original road that was coming through, and at that time it was said, no, those will not be bike lanes, they will be door easements. And then the conversation continued on with, that was the same time that they had the controversy about parking on the side streets, particularly, which street was it? There was a huge controversy of.
I think it was a overall conversation of removing on-street parking for fire trucks to get through the community.
So it was, so their explanation was that is when they had the conversation about bike lanes. Again, pro or con, that's not what I'm here. I just want to make sure that the residents are aware this is going on. All feedback from residents have to be handed in by Friday.
Or emailed.
Or emailed, correct. So you have to contact the county no later than Friday, or else your comments, either way, will not be seen. So I highly encourage, if it's something that you are in favor of, please reach out and let them know why. Unfortunately, the safety issue is why it is being highlighted, and there are pros and cons on both sides. I just think that the community members need to be well educated on it, so please do your research.
Yeah, but can I just add?
Yes.
You said if they're in favor, reach out. You meant if they're in favor or not
Or
in
not,
favor.
yeah, either
Okay.
way, because please, thank you for the clarification, yes, either way, I think it's important. Last night, it was more, I think, not in favor vocally, so both ways, please.
I just want to echo that there was never any attempt to reach me or talk to me or ask my opinion, because I have no opinions, obviously. But when it comes to this particular issue, I am deeply concerned about a connected problem, which is the e-scooters, the bikes that are being dropped off, the lack of resources and the lack of ability that we have under Florida state law to do anything about that. We met today in executive session and discussed that topic. It's of great concern to us. And I frankly wonder why it is that we have a discussion of county bike trails a month ago, followed by a discussion of bike lanes, followed by a dropping off of e-scooters and bikes. Those may be completely unrelated, three totally separate items, and that just isn't that funny and a coincidence. It may also be something beyond a coincidence, and if it's something beyond a coincidence, then I think we ought to be honest about it and just say, we don't want cars in Celebration, we only want scooters and bikes. If that's what the people of this community want, then that's what they want. But I'd be surprised if that's really the opinion of the majority of the community. And I think it's important that people continue to press the county and the CDD for transparency. We have worked very hard on this board to be transparent. I appreciate the comments tonight from Joe and Al and Danny. But that comes at a price, and sometimes that means we have to say things that people don't want to hear. I wish that the other entities in the governance of this community had the same willingness, and they aren't going to like that over at CDD, but tough.
David, any comment from you?
Yeah, I have a couple comments. I'm sorry I could not make the meeting last
Put a
night.
microphone to him.
Like other board members, I've never been contacted by the county, asking for an opinion on this issue. I wonder if last night's meeting was filmed
No.
No.
or viewing?
No.
Okay. Because it was a CDD and a county meeting.
It was,
So
it was
and it
noticed, David, it was noticed because there were more, there was more than one CDD member that was here, so they had to put an agenda and a notice out in order for them to attend.
Okay. Okay. The other thing that is of concern, I do not know that a decision has been made, and it sounds like last night there was really not an opportunity for dialogue or real group discussion. It's concerning to me that all input is needed by Friday, and with the, I can't see the audience with the film, but with the hundreds of people there tonight, but seriously, to let the community know that all input in any direction is needed by this Friday. I'm wondering if that can be included in the Friday flash.
But it needs to be done before
Just that-
Friday Flash.
Or before the Friday
It
flash.
needs to be a
That's fine.
Thursday Flash.
Yeah, the Thursday tickler or whatever. Well, but this is very timely, and we all have to have our voices heard, including the fact that, as Vaughn and a couple others have mentioned, they're attributing that they've reached out to CROA, and that has not happened. And we as a group have not had any discussion on this as a CROA board. So anyway, those are my comments and suggestions.
Okay, thank you. Do we want to send out
I
a,
was gonna say, I think we need to do that. Can I also make another suggestion?
go ahead.
Because this was not on our agenda, and the residents were unable to provide their thoughts publicly to CDD or to CROA, to anybody, do we want to open it up for any public comments regarding this issue or not?
No.
Okay, I'm fine with that, I was just offering, yeah.
Okay, so if we're going to send out a Thursday flash tomorrow, let's make it very simple. Just these are the two people you send, these are the two people you send your comments to, pro or con. I think, Steve, maybe you could draft something, or we could draft something that just simply says the meeting was held, it was widely attended on Tuesday evening, the comments pro or con were requested by Friday, and here is where you should email your comments to. I think we can make it that simple.
Just have maybe the links to the emails on there?
Yeah.
We did a Friday flash last Friday that had.
Well, this has got,
They were different-
these were
different
different, these were
contacts.
different.
They're
I've
different
got them,
contacts.
actually.
Steve,
And I think the only other thing, if I may, the only
Can't
other
take
thing I'd say, what information does the county need from a resident? Do they need a name, address, phone number, email? So whatever makes it a legitimate.
could we post a
Resident
copy of
making
that
a statement.
comments form, Steve, on that blurb that we send out? You know, that, you weren't there. We have a copy of
Yeah, let's put on a copy.
Put a copy
I
of
think
that.
I have a copy of the.
PDF it and-
The email address is on there, the names.
Yeah, if we do a link.
everything.
Okay, and we can get it out there. Keep it as neutral as can be, but then people can respond if they want to.
I just have a question. Was Kanoa contacted on this, do you know, Steve?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay.
But they have highlighted who they're going to get the funding from.
It's because it wasn't said last
It
night.
wasn't said last night. Just so you know, they highlighted that there was no funding allocation, however, they have located a funding source. FYI.
Okay, I want to keep it neutral. Let's roll forward. We have not had an update on Island Village for a while. It is a regular monthly item. I'm happy to announce that we have David Holm here. David is a Celebration resident, and I'll let him explain everything else, his role, and how the future is going to evolve. Thank you, David, for, Steve, everything is changing, and Steve and I had a meeting today with David and his new person coming on number 2. I forgot the name, I apologize, but I'm going to let you go through everything.
Sure, thanks, and members of the board, members of the community. By way of introduction, my name is Dave Hume. I live at 1109 Rush Court. Sorry, that was a reflex. Probably don't need to do that. But yes, I'm a Celebration resident, and I'm also the vice president of land at Mattamy Homes. For those that are unfamiliar, just basically Mattamy Homes owns the portion of Island Village, which is the extension of Celebration Boulevard, and is programmed to have a mixture of residential units there, along with some amenities and other fine and wonderful things. quick introduction, and I know I only have 5 minutes, so I'll make sure I watch out for the warning signs.
I'll give you 6.
Thank you. But I moved to Celebration and started working for the Celebration Company in 2008. So I've been a resident here for over 10 years, 11 technically, and worked for the Celebration Company for 5.5 years. One of the roles I had there was to manage that property at Island Village, along with other things within Celebration. So during my time there, I was actually on the CROA board. I worked a lot with CGC and with CCMC and the board here. Afterwards, I went into home building, and one thing led to another, and now I'm with Mattamy Homes. For those that have been following the project, I know we've had another representative. Bennett Ruedis has moved on to wonderful and new and great things, so we really thank him for his time here. And going forward, I will serve as the main point of contact on the Mattamy side for any sort of questions on Island Village. Outside of that, during my time here, I've been a baseball coach in Little League since then. Slight, I guess, time there as the president. Also, I serve at the Community Presbyterian Church as an elder. I serve with Gloria. I want to give her a hug too, so I got to wait till Friday to do that. But on the Celebration Foundation. So yes, I have very, very deep roots here in the community. So hopefully that works to our advantage as we roll out our development, and we're really excited about what we have planned for there. I've been talking also to like the technology committee about some of the new and wonderful things like self-service. Just keep on down low. But I think everybody will be able to get a signal down there, but I can't make too many promises. In any case, we're really excited about what we're doing down there. For anyone that goes around our brand new shiny roundabout, you can kind of see the new bridge and the roadway going in there. We're just out there today, and we're halfway done with the bridge, and they're still pouring as we go along. So moving forward, and really excited that we are getting closer and closer to fruition. But I will, if you want, I can take questions or comments, or if you just want me to sit down, that's perfectly fine.
All right, take 2 or 3 minutes and tell people what's happening a little bit with the rollout of Island Village, because, and you're on tape, so, but, you know, what's the vision, what's happening, just a couple of minutes, just because we haven't heard anything for a little while.
Sure. Well, what we have is really, right now, ownership of just the first island. If I had a map, I could point to it, but if you can envision, Island Village is comprised of several different islands, some of which will not have homes on it, or not reachable by car, but we will be able to install things like the boardwalks that you currently see around the community to access some of these areas. But it's also got some very large uplands that we call the islands that will have homes, amenities, and other uses. For example, in the first island, the first phase of the project, there is a school site. I won't get into it. I know you've covered this in very, very big detail, but there's a K-5 school planned for that first island phase. We also have an apartment complex that is planned for that phase. That's 300 apartment units there. There will be an amenity size similar to what you see over at Lakeside or at Artisan. And then a various mixture of houses, everything from townhomes to 70-foot lots, 40-foot lots, 55-foot lots. So in our vernacular, townhomes, cottage, estate, and bungalow lots. So in that regards, we are going through the planning process. There's other subphases that we have to break out the actual boulevard extension as a separate phase. So that you can see is ongoing, and that's active. The next phase is the first part of the island that includes the school. We have an approved plan by the county for that, a site plan. And we'll be able to start once we get through the bridge. The bridge should be done within a month, just so everybody knows that. And we'll be able to start construction traffic through there to start the roadways and the clearing and the infrastructure for the homes. If all goes according to plans, we start going vertical with that late spring of 2020. And hopefully that will have homes that will be able to be occupied at the end of 2020.
Perfect.
Go ahead, Jackson.
First of all, I want to congratulate you. I think that this is a strong move by Mattamy to bring someone with deep roots in Celebration in. I know that you care very much about this community. And with that in mind, I know that one of the great concerns that we've had all along is the proliferation of short-term rentals and vacation homes. And I'd love to have you say into the camera right now that Island Village is not going to have, under the supplemental declarations, short-term rentals or vacation homes.
That, as of now, is not an approved use,
As of now?
and not unless something changes. I can't.
And as a resident of Celebration, that would be distressing to you, wouldn't it, if there were short-term rentals?
Well, I'll help you there, because he's also under our charter and everything, so
I got that.
I'm just helping you with your answer. You're under our charter, and under our charter, it is outlawed, so.
Right, it is definitely, to be perfectly clear, it is part of Celebration, so it falls under CROA, it falls under the charter, falls under all of the DC CROs that are associated with it. That was part of the agreement upon the sale.
Okay. Thank you very much. I do appreciate it.
All right.
And we will have it as a regular agenda item on our meeting. If you're so inclined to speak, it is good to have somebody from Celebration on this project who knows the culture very well, because that was one of the largest worries that I heard from residents back when this thing was kicking off is, what do they know about Celebration? I work with you in there, they know quite a bit.
I believe that will pay dividends in the future, and I appreciate the ability to stay on the agenda. We might not have much to say at some months, but others, we will definitely take advantage of the ability to broadcast out to all the residents, and even those that are outside of the community that would be interested in Celebration.
We had an ad hoc group earlier. We're going to get the ad hoc group back to meeting again in the first half of October. And another piece of information that I actually found positive that I learned today was that Mattamy now has 10 communities in Central Florida. You're managing all 10 communities. He has a team that's going to help him on this project along with those. So Mattamy has a commitment to Central Florida, and Mattamy has realigned his project to have a strong commitment to Celebration.
Yeah, and I encourage anyone that's furtherly interested in not only Island Village, but Mattamy Homes as well, that you can always go to our website, but we have a local division office here, so that we are in the Orlando area, in Maitland in particular, but we'll also have a presence here, hopefully sooner rather than later, where we'll begin the sales process. I know a majority of the questions are probably on that. I don't have much information. We do have a separate sales division that handles all of that, but I'm integrally involved in that as well. So if there are questions on that, I can handle it.
Thank you.
When you were saying the construction, or the bridge, are you talking about the one with the trestle, or the construction entrance would be done in a month?
We don't have a construction entrance.
Oh, I thought you were going to have a separate one for trucks to come in to the actual island itself.
We looked into that, and there isn't the ability to have a separate entrance. So all construction traffic initially will be over the bridge, and then once we have residents, it'll be through that access.
Okay, didn't know. Perfect. Thank you very much.
All right.
All right. Next, Vaughn, the financials.
Okay.
We have that up there, Steve? We do. Hold on, let me Jacksonize it.
Yeah. Not a lot here. That 109 changed, didn't it?
I sent out a new package this afternoon because we had some
Yeah, we have a brand new one.
changes.
Is that the old one?
That's the new one.
That's the new one, okay. Above budget by 109,000, the operating fund, operating cash is still the same, 1.4. Reserve capital improvement fund cash, we have 0.3 million, and that's primarily due to the 3.2 that we had to put out for the civic corridor. So I think our civic corridor came to a total of
About 4.7.
the total?
The fees came to about 4.7, about 6.4 for everything.
6.4 for everything. And then we have some estimates for our budget next year. It looks like we're going to go from 29.
We're going to do that on action item 1.
Oh, you don't want to do that?
Yeah,
Okay.
action item 1.
All right. I'm done. Apparently.
All right.
Transparency.
Well, no, I sent an email.
Brian, is he done?
He's done. Steve, management report.
So the management report is in your board packet, and it was posted online for those that want to follow along. We have some projects that have come off, so it's not as hefty as it's been in the past, but I wanted to touch on two quickly. One's the Parks and Facilities Master Plan update. We do have a final product now that's been distributed to the board, and we're working on putting together some slides for a presentation at an October meeting. And I believe that meeting is the end of the month, October 23rd. So that information will be posted shortly. It will be a town hall style meeting where residents can come, we'll review it, and then there'll be an opportunity for residents to ask questions and engage with the CROA board and myself regarding that master plan. So that is coming shortly to be posted online also once we have that meeting with the community. So I'll open it to the board. Do you have any questions regarding the master plan? And I did send that to the board last week, so the board has a copy of that now.
When do we plan on sending that to the community?
Whenever the board's ready, I can post it. I know that we were going to do the 6 or 10 slides to go over at the October meeting.
Just so people could kind of be familiar with our thought process, it's 180 some pages of pain. So what we really thought we would do on October 23rd is probably have a board meeting from, say, 4:30 to 5:30. It would be a streamlined board meeting. Do maybe 5:30 to 6:15, something like that, where we do wine and some appetizers like we've done before, and then between 6:15 and 6:30, get everybody to have a seat, and then at 6:30, we would actually do the parks and facilities for maybe 45 minutes, and then we would do Q&A for another 45 minutes to an hour to cover all kinds of things going on. So a real town hall type meeting.
Okay. The other item I want to talk about was the UCF Management Sustainability Study. We're in the final stages of that. I have a conference call with Dr. Mitchell from UCF. It has been rescheduled. It was earlier this week, but I had to reschedule it for later this week. So I'll touch base with them tomorrow to do the final call. And then I believe after I have that call with him to discuss the final outcome page, he'll be in touch with Jackson as the board liaison for final steps in this process. So it's moving along, and I just wanted to give you a quick update on that. And the last,
go ahead, sorry.
Sorry, no, if there's a question related to that?
No, go ahead.
Okay. I'd like to ask Nikki to come up if she can. She's been operating the new Celebration Community Field Complex, so just if she can give us a quick update on hours of operation and just some challenges that she's seeing and some of the positives that we're seeing out there. Hey, Nikki.
Hi, Nikki.
Give everybody your full name, so on TV they know who you are.
Social security
Okay,
number.
my name's Nikki Patton, and I'm the Parks and Rec manager. So I believe in the August meeting, you got an update in regards to reservations. As of right now, in regards to the reservation process, we have one additional private function for October 19th, book in the fields. Another update is lacrosse finally got 2 home games for fall. They were having difficulties with that, so we have 2 home games, October 27th and November 2nd. So that's the updates in regards to the reservation. Concerns that we're receiving so far with the fields. We've been discussing difficulty with moving equipment, so we're looking in the process of bringing a motorized vehicle back and forth on the sidewalk, just to move the 40-pound sandbags, moving the 4x6 soccer goals. So that's something that we're brainstorming as a team in regards.
And while she's on that point, that is going to be an ask that we're
Yeah.
going to be bringing back very shortly.
That was going to be my question.
So,
No, yeah.
we'll get all that information together and we'll put together an agenda item for you to review.
Okay, and then another concern was field lining. Our team, we honestly didn't realize how long it took to field line. It takes roughly 10 hours to measure the fields, get it in a perfectly straight line. 2 people, it took 10 hours to get the fields ready for the grand opening. So that's just something that we're kind of working around. Right now, it's a little bit more comfortable since we met with the soccer teams. We got their schedules down. So all we need to do is just reline that field weekly, and it should take 1 to 2 hours since they're already measured.
Nikki, how many hours a week right now are the fields in use?
So right now, it's, so from Monday through Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Thursdays are our busy days. The fields are all occupied between the hours of 5 to 9. Wednesdays, we only have 1 team on the synthetic turf, roughly from 5 to 9, and then Fridays just for 1 hour. Saturdays and Sundays are mostly games for lacrosse as well as soccer.
So on Saturday and Sunday, are the fields in use for most of the day?
Correct.
On Sunday too, or?
Sunday, it's roughly like from 10 to 2.
And Saturday's mostly 8 to about 4, 5 o'clock.
And we have a full-time employee at the fields and 3 part-time employees, is that correct?
So we have the full-time coordinator up there, and we're in the process of the transition phase of the park monitors. We're in the process of training a few more.
We have some of the monitors that are working some extra hours that we're doing the normal monitoring shift while we try and find the right candidates for those positions.
And could you tell us the name of the full-time employee who's supervising out there?
Her name is Amira Velez.
Okay, so that's who people should contact if they're at the fields, correct?
Correct, yes.
And if you want to book the fields, we don't want to overcomplicate it. You can go to Myra and she'll be able to help you, or you can contact here at Town Hall and Nikki and her team can help you also.
And what's access to the fields in off hours? In other words, are there gates that are locked? Are there people at the fields? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Okay, in regards to the hours, so Monday through Friday, we'll have someone there from 8 to noon. Just with this process of trying to find the appropriate part-timers in the morning, myself will be down there Monday through Friday, and then on the weekends, we have the coordinator, Myra, as well as some part-timer park monitors assistant with the hours.
So
from 8
total-
to,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
No,
go ahead. Okay, so from Monday through Friday, it's gonna be like 8 a.m. all the way to 10 p.m. And then Saturday and Sunday would probably be from 8 a.m. all the way to 5 p.m. since we don't have any reservations.
So if I showed up at 8 a.m. on Tuesday morning, I could get in and walk around the fields, is that correct?
Correct, yes.
On
Okay.
the sidewalk.
On sidewalks, right.
On the sidewalks. Have you considered, I know we've talked a little bit about whether or not your team and staff should be headquartered out of the facility. Have you given more thought to that?
We actually talked about it in the coordinator position that we're filling. We'll spend the mornings there with the little workspace, and then once Omira gets there at noon, she'll come back here to the offices. We want to make sure, we have a little portable desk that can be stuffed away in the closet if the rooms are rented out, so that way it's multifunctional.
So if the fields are not rented, are we gonna have somebody there for the residents to be able to walk in and do whatever they want, or how are we gonna do that?
We do up until the evening time, so if the last game's done 9:30, to not have folks going back there without staff, we'll be closing the gates in the evening. And then on Saturdays and Sundays, usually the play ends around 5, 6 o'clock, so we'll be closing the facility at the end of play on Saturdays and Sundays.
Which, to me, kind of makes sense. I mean, I can see people doing their morning walks and going back there, but in the evening, when it's done, we ought to be, it's getting dark, we ought to be shutting it down, and we shouldn't be having lights.
Especially your LED lights are just spread on the field too, so you want
Well,
to,
and the difference is that the LED in the use of those fields is really rental only. So those lights, they're functional to where we can shut them off when the fields aren't being used. The bollards and the street lights provide plenty of light for the pathway, but if there's nobody back there, it just is an opening for all kinds of activities to take place back there.
Good.
And have the various sports leagues managed to work out their scheduling conflicts?
Correct, yes. I actually talk to them on a weekly basis, so it's more of a communication compared to the K-3 fields, so.
And you're recommending tonight that we sign the contracts with a couple of these providers for the sports leagues, is that correct?
Correct, and with that rec meeting that we had in August, I appreciate that suggestion. In November, we can kind of discuss how they're doing so far.
Great.
And the rec committee is also recommending that they're approved.
Correct, yes.
So how are the fields holding up that people are using? I mean, we got 2 turf fields and we got the synthetic. I mean, how are they for playability? What are you hearing and stuff like that, and functionality and everything?
So right now, they're good. In regards to the size of the field, I know a couple of people are complaining because the 2 grass fields aren't considered regulation size. So if you put all of the lines for regulation, it goes all the way towards the sidewalk, so there's not really room for guests to put up a tent. So that's kind of the only concern I've heard about that. But in regards to the playing fields itself, Jacob has been doing a really great job with making sure the irrigation system.
That's Jacob at New Leaf?
Correct.
Yeah.
And can I just add to that, the fields were never, the natural turf fields were never built to be full-size fields. There just wasn't enough room at that complex for that to happen. So when we started the initial conversations with all the different sports leagues, they knew what size fields we could fit on those fields. It's not safe to try and jam the full field on there because then you're right up against the safety nets and other things.
And my last question is, do you have any specific plans to try and market or increase usage for tournaments or weekend play because we need the money?
Well, we haven't discussed a marketing strategy internally, but we have met with experienced Kissimmee, we've met with one of the Orlando lacrosse groups, some of the big players in these types of tournaments, and they're very excited. They've come out and toured the fields, and they're going to go out and do the marketing for us and start bringing tournaments. And they've commented on really appreciating the fact that when they have these tournaments, they can put folks in Celebration hotels, they can eat in Celebration restaurants, and then they can utilize the facility here, and all of this within a very close proximity. And if you've ever been to travel tournaments before, sometimes the hotel's 20 minutes from the facility and the restaurants are another 30 minutes away. So we really have a good thing here for these additional tournaments.
I just want to thank you. I think you've done a fabulous job, and your team has done a great job, and the Recreation Committee working with you. I'm really proud of the product that we've created, so thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Anything else on the parks and field, or the fields? Thank you. Why not, go ahead.
The last item that I had is if there's any updates from Yellowstone that you have, Todd, or if there's any questions for Yellowstone from the board. Because they come every meeting, and I want to make sure that they're recognized for being here, and we can get them out if we don't need them.
They told me they love hiding back there.
They stay for the entire meeting, too.
Well, I do have a question for Yellowstone,
Please.
actually. And the question is, we've been talking a little bit about the scope and the size of the work with one landscaper for most of our work. And I would be curious to hear whether or not you feel like it would be better to have multiple providers and a smaller geographic area to work on in which you could provide more service than you're doing presently. Which is not to say your service is bad, it's just, would you be better off with, if we broke this up into multiples?
Would you like me to come up and speak?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I would.
Hello, everyone. My name is Pete Whitman. I'm with Yellowstone Landscape. Thank you for letting me speak. I'll speak directly to that. I mean, we're more than capable of taking on any job, any size. I think there is some added benefit to having one company servicing the area. You know, if one area needs more attention, you have the people on staff, on site to tackle those items quickly, efficiently. If you have it smaller, broken up, you have not much of a presence on the property, and having the presence on the property is huge. Having the dedication to the job, having consistency across the parks is important too. With multiple vendors, sometimes you can have, you know, one vendor doing not so good, one vendor doing okay. Then you have people raising questions on what's going on in my park. Why does this one look like this? It's just, there's less consistency with multiple vendors. In some areas that might make sense, but I think with Celebration, the way it's broken out, and the parks, they all have the consistent landscaping look. A lot of the plant material is the same. The turf is the same. You would want to have one vendor that's dedicated to all those areas.
And Todd, is that, you're nodding your head?
I was just falling asleep.
We'll work on the entertainment a little more for you.
It's like being with United Nations, right?
No, I completely agree. When we put the scope together, that was the intention of one, you know, capable landscape company doing all the parks. We did split up to that, you know, concept by having the service areas with a different landscape contractor, which has really helped out. We found that service areas have a lot more call volume because it's their homes instead of, you know, just a park. So that's helped out by having those separate contracts. Yellowstone is they're doing a good job, and it's great to work with one company. We have those meetings every week. We get things, you know, thought through sometimes and worked out, and having them here, you know, all week long is definitely good. If you had multiple ones, they'd be here, you know, 5-6 times, you know, throughout the parks, different days, and it just wouldn't work out very well.
And we also have Spring Lake on a separate contract, and Yellowstone is on that contract right now, but that is something that we're talking with them about, and that goes to your question of can they do it at the price that they've given us, and so that is something that we're exploring right now.
Yeah. I hope you're paying a living wage to your employees, for lots of reasons, but the quality of the people that work. I would hope that as an employer in Celebration, that we are committed to that, and that people who are doing maintenance work and yard work and lawn work get paid a living wage.
Yeah. Our wages are actually higher than most of the industry standard. We use H-2B visa workers that come over. We put them up in apartments. We fully furnish their apartments for them. It's unbelievable. The same guys come back every single year, and they're just extremely dedicated workers. When they come, they actually raise the wage for our entire branch. We have to pay them a certain amount of money, and so we have to pay all of our local people as much as we're paying the visa workers. So it really has been a benefit for us, and we pay more than most people is what I'm hearing.
And that's the key to landscape maintenance, is getting the frontline staff to do what needs to be done.
Okay.
Do
Any
they
other
get paid more than
questions?
CROA members?
Everybody gets paid.
Action item 1.1, living wages for us.
Poverty
Okay,
wages.
any last items for Yellowstone?
No, just a quick comment for Todd, or for just in general. The ARC meeting last night, Todd brought in a great plan for Deer Park.
Deer Woods.
Or Deer Woods, Deerwood Park, there we
Sure,
go.
exactly.
And it was, they were very nice plans, so I'm looking forward to seeing a big upgrade in the area.
Thank you. Yes, that will be on the agenda for next month.
Yeah, but it's gonna look great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just please continue to send your feedback over. We always like it. You know, we're not always perfect at all times. You know, it is the middle of summer and we're working through issues here and there, but it's every one of us, and Doug is the boots on the ground here, and all his team members here, truly dedicated to Celebration, always getting better and better. So thank you very much for having us.
This is Celebration. People always give you their opinion.
Of course.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The last item I have on management report, I won't ask Steve to talk to it, I'll talk about it, is Celebration Community Services, CCS, the great 2014, 15, 16, 17, and 18 audit that has been moving at the speed of light now for about 9 months. 14 is done, 15 they're wrapping up, so we have to have a budget for 2020, so we've been putting off a CCS meeting until we actually get the audited financials, which I think are going to show boring results with nothing to be concerned about, but to make everybody aware that's still out there. CCS has about $112,000 in cash. It's a 501c3. It's no longer being used on any Lexan stuff. We use it for Posh Pooch, and we're looking at ways to expand it into the future, but I think it's worthwhile everyone just to update things.
I appreciate that. Now, I think the manager report for July, when Steve started doing the weekly emails from time to time, we were expecting it to be wrapped up at the end of July. Is there, just for the record, a reason why there's a delay? It's a fairly simple process, I thought, when we were going into it, so.
We got a very, very economical rate, which I think has led to a very, very poor prioritization. So I've read the 2014 audited financials. I mean, they'll put you to sleep. Yeah. I think 15, 16, 17, 18 will do it. Has it been as fast as it should have been? Not even close, but I think we're getting what we're paid for.
Time frame that we may have them back?
I'm hoping. I would really like.
We said July before.
Yeah. I would just be good for the budget. No, I 100% agree.
Unfortunately, this is one thing that is just, it really is out of our hands.
One of the problems is we did 5 years, and when you start going back and auditing 2014, it's not as easy as people think it should be, because they do have to do certain confirmations and other things like that, and so they're rolling them forward, and I think once 18 is done, then 19, 20 will be standard processes, but we made it complicated, and we're not paying money. We got a pretty cheap rate, but we're just waiting. That's the honest answer.
Have you spoken to them to get an update at all, or no?
Susan's sent constant emails to them.
Susan is
She's on
sending me updates, and if there was something to tell you, I'd tell you.
It's only like five things a year.
Yeah, no, I'm not arguing.
Okay.
Okay. Action item 1, Mr. Treasurer, budget discussion.
Budget. All right, I don't know if you can see that, but you can see that our budget for 2019 is about 5.9, and it's going to go up about 200,000. We figure next year to 6.2. The The contra revenues are going from 1.3 to 1.4, going to the reserves. Net revenues are going to be up, but our total expenses are going to be also up to 4.9 from 4.5. So you got a depreciation of 254,000. If you go down to the athletic revenue, field revenues, we're looking at about 83.5. It's an estimate. We don't really know what that's going to turn out to be, but we're guessing. We had a little higher before. We dropped it down to 83.5. The field expenses, you're looking at 351,000 run rate to keep these fields running. But if you take away the 83.5 for the rentals, we're looking at about a deficit of 267,000 a year for our run rate that we have to make up somehow. So as far as every year, our budget, we've typically raised it, since I've been on the board, well, it's just the second year, but 2%. So we're looking at a 2% again this year. I don't know, before this board, did we raise it at all? I don't remember.
It's been twice
We didn't.
5 or 6 years.
It hasn't been raised in a year.
There were 5 or 6 years in a row when it wasn't raised,
Yeah.
which was
Yeah.
probably an error.
Yeah,
But-
so we're trying to catch up and make it a realistic budget. So friggin' 2%. And I don't, Brian, did you want to touch on the?
Yeah, I will.
On the other
So,
point?
let me just shrink this just a hair. So, down just a little, I just really want to drive this home. So the budget 2019, our first draft budget 2020. Budget's got to break even. We broke even last year. This first budget that we discussed at a workshop on September 16th, it's available online, we have a loss of $254,000. And we got to close the gap. So what we really tried to show here is the athletic fields, great asset for the community, but these expenses, $351,000, and just to help you a little, that includes replacement reserves on the athletic fields of $83,000. And what we mean by replacement reserves is you've got to replace the items that are out there. You got to replace turf. You got to replace the synthetic field eventually, and stuff like that. So you got to build up those reserves over time. Staffing, $112,000 for the full-time person and some of these part-time persons, so we have security out there. Landscaping, $78,000. You got a lot of landscaping on those. We got, I'm just giving you the big items. Water, $22,000. Electrical, $25,000. So what you end up with is you end up with $351,000. People have, I had the comments made to me in the past that we shouldn't be charging such high rent because it's for the kids, but we're actually doing something for the kids pretty strongly. If we're bringing in 80,000 of this and it costs $350, we got a $270. And the problem is that $270,000 item is a run rate item. So it's, sometimes if you have a big expense and it's a one-time blip, you say, okay, we can take that out of capital and just kind of live with it. If you got a run rate item, you got a run rate item, it's going to be there every year, you got to fill the hole. And then, if you come down, we did an engineering study like we do every 3 years. We spent a pretty exhaustive workshop on this too. If you take other places, including the dog park, including all the other parks, this building and stuff like that, we had an increase in expenses of about $100,000 that we've got to finance. So we got 267, we got 105. Vaughn mentioned the 2% for inflation adjustment on assessments. That equals 291, which doesn't equal this because there's some other positives. But we're trying to give you the big picture. But the real message here is we're going to have a workshop again in October, but 2%. Each 1% is about 40,000. There's 4,300 homes, so each 1% is about $40,000. To close that, you'd have to go from 2% to 7%, which is a real number. So I mean, I don't want to. That's the reason we're talking about this, so that we can get people out there understanding. We put these assets in place, but we've challenged a lot of expenses. But at the end of the day, these expenses become real. And we're coming home with some real expenses. So assessments are going up. I'm not telling you they're going up 7%, but I'm telling you going up by some amount because expenses have went up with the civic corridor. There's just,
no other argument about it. And trying to say this as plainly and clearly as we can so that it can make the back porch and it can make the front porch and everywhere else and get the conversation going, because people do need to be aware. Things cost money, and there are ramifications to decisions. I think probably in hindsight, any other major project done for future building should have not only what it's going to cost to build an item, but also what are the run rate expenses that go with that item, what are the reserve balances that go with that item, because I've reviewed old tapes. I don't think we necessarily thought through the ramifications of total decisions. So this is a tough conversation. We're trying to be as painfully obvious as we can. I welcome comments from other board members.
Just for clarification, we're all one team, but the we didn't think this through for cost is nobody on this current board. So let's just make sure that's known before the back porch goes crazy.
Well, we're
about
trying
that.
to fix it.
We're trying to fix it, but we're taking this as a learning opportunity for future projects.
Yes.
And I want to just emphasize that we did in fact charge and agree to the full rate for all of the athletic organizations, even those that claim that they should be grandfathered under a lower amount. We are charging everyone the correct rate under the Recreation Committee's plans. That is to say, no one's getting a discount beyond being a celebration organization. We've gone to a pay-for-play structure, but the reality is the reality. This is the biggest single asset we've put into use in the community, and it's an expensive asset to run and to run properly. I don't think anyone wants us to open this asset and then watch it be damaged or not operate or be inaccessible. Could we discover down the road that we don't need one full-time person and 3 part-time people? Perhaps. Could we discover that we can find efficiencies in the way that we manage it? Perhaps. But the reality of the numbers here, I think, is inescapable. And if we're going to continue to grow and develop the community, I think we have to recognize that you got to pay the piper.
Okay, I'll actually disagree with one thing that Jackson said. We cut management staff a couple, 3 years ago, and then we found out that the community did not want to cut the level of experience the level of service expected. So if we're going to expect a celebration level of service, we're going to have to pay for a celebration level of service. So
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
agree.
counting on.
I'm not suggesting.
No, I just wanted to follow up, because I'm not counting on you to save. Could we save 25,000 somewhere? Sure. I mean, we are still challenging planning assumptions, and there are certain items that I think may help this, but it's not going to help it by 250,000.
I think to Jackson's point, this is our first year of operating this facility. We could, and we are exploring some additional opportunities for third-party revenues through some events at that facility, which could help quite a bit in the revenue. We also could realize some savings in operating that facility, but we have to always estimate a little bit higher and conservatively to ensure that we have the right budget for this year. But this year will be kind of a guinea pig for us, and then we'll look at it again moving into 2021, and we'll make those adjustments accordingly.
Okay, but then let me follow up with some good news. How much for 20 it is, but I think it'll be good news for 21. David Yulm talked about Island Village earlier. Actually, they owe an assessment when they start cutting plot, whatever you want to call it, on the new island when they start building. We could have assessment revenue start coming in maybe in the middle or later 2020. The apartments in Island Village are supposed to come on in early to mid 2021. Homes are going to start selling in 2021. So there is going to be a flow of revenue from Island Village that starts coming through a little in 2020 and then more seriously in 21, 22 going forward. To the extent we don't use all of that revenue on operating expenses, there is clearly going to be an increase in operating expenses, but that could benefit us in the future for assessments, and maybe we could hold them steady for a year or two. I want to be clear here. We're going to have an assessment increase this year greater than 2%. I don't want anybody to be misled, but I think could be hope for the future after that, and I think there are lessons learned. having talked about that, I want to go to one more topic, which is the Stetson Building. The Parks and Facilities Plan will be coming out shortly. It talks about 851 building and what you could do here, the Stetson Building, what you could do there, Lot D, which is the golf park property out on Civic Corridor. Stetson has been for sale for a long time. It started out at Taj Mahal pricing. As time has passed, it has come down some. We've always considered it as a possible asset for Celebration because it's ideally located. The value of that building is you could use that building, maybe you could take the 851 building, becomes your community center, and while that might be cheaper than us building a new thing when you look at how expensive we do new building. What we do realize, though, is that if the Stetson Building were to fall into a price that would be reasonable for Celebration, we don't have a plan in place to execute that plan. So we're going to form a small working group of people from the community. It won't be that large. We will keep you publicly apprised, but our goal is to understand, okay, how might we use Stetson? What does Stetson need to fix it up, at different price points and stuff like that? We may never be able to execute, but it'll be a great learning process because, if it did come in at the right price, we need to actually be able to have an intelligent conversation about how would we use it, what would we do with it, to talk to you. If we had to do financing in a short term, what would that look like? There's a lot of things here, and if it had an intelligent price and we have done no work at all, we're just nailed. So we want to start a project where we actually think about it, and it may be apropos, it may never be apropos, but it'll be a great learning curve when we think about other potential assets down the road for the future. So we wanted to make everyone aware of that. Board members, would you like to add anything to what I just said on that?
I was involved 3 years ago when it first came up with the conversation, and at the time I think it was over $8 million. And the price has definitely come down substantially. I would love to see something like an iconic building like that to be able to stay as a public use type item rather than going to a private business. So that's just my personal, but I also want to make sure that it is not a drain, an exorbitant drain on our community too. So I just think that's important to balance. And again, going back to a previous comment is, if we're going to do something like this, we also have to make sure we have money to operate.
Well, and the reason now is an intelligent time to have this conversation is because, if they came back with a number in 2 weeks, we're not going to be ready. But let's say time plays out a little, Island Village starts drawing a revenue stream. We want to be able to sit there and say, okay, what is the status of the roof and the windows and stuff like that? I don't know Stetson well, and what would it cost to operate it annually? If we did that and we made this a community center as just a hypothetical, what would it do to our staffing, and what would replacement reserve stuff be and stuff like that? We want, because I can tell you that, coming out of the top fives, I'm going from memory here, but I guarantee you, community center was there, and different things like that. So we want to start actually doing a homework to get it to there, and so that we can actually say there is a plan, because we need to bring the community along about what this could look like, and then someday, if we have a chance, then say, this is how we would actually do it. So feel free to ask any board member for a follow-up on that if you want, but we are going to try to get a small team built, and as we get a small team built, we will tell people who's on the small team, so at least people in the public are aware of it and go, and then we can be transparent.
Brian, if I may?
Yes, please, go ahead, David.
Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate your comments, and I really appreciate the idea of pulling together a small team. That may be CROA, and then also think about, as we do this, other community members. This is and I know the Stetson building being for sale, again, multiple times over multiple years, is like the trigger right now, but the larger question is, what are our needs in the community? How do we fast forward 10 years, 15 years, 20 years? What's appropriate for us, and so that, to determine, again, lots of stakeholders, lots of players in the discussion in a very deliberate, planful way, I think will serve all of us well. It's not we have 2 days to decide. Take our time, but not take years, but real good, thoughtful process. So I'm glad that you're raising that. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, clearly, at some point in time, we're going to talk to CCD. We'll probably talk to the Celebration Foundation. We're going to talk to the players in town who might be involved, who might have interest, and look at the big picture. Okay. Anything else on the budget? I realize it was not cheerful news, but that's where we're at, and at least, but.
It's the damn treasurer.
All right. 1.2. Steve.
Would you like to make the motion and second it, and then we can open it for discussion?
Okay.
And there is an updated version, so mine that I'm showing on the screen is a little bit outdated.
Okay.
But you have one in front of you.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. This item is related to the video management software for all of our camera systems, and it was talked about extensively at the CROA budget workshop. And it was asked that Patrick and Todd go back and break these two items out separately. So Patrick's here. If there's any questions, he's available to answer them. And I don't know if you want to give a quick general overview of what VMS means, but for the audience's purpose. Yeah, it was a hard copy that was put in front of you.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't get one, sorry, okay. Got an extra one?
Yeah, I do.
I didn't have a pile. All right, take it away.
Okay, for the purposes of action item, we have the VMS that was separated from the camera installation. The VMS will cover all of our existing facilities and the existing cameras that are there. The location for the CCFC, which was one of the biggest issues that we had, which was unmanned at this, sorry, not unmanned, but there's no current surveillance there. We have that separated from the VMS. The VMS will be a replacement reserve since we currently have a management software in place. It's just severely outdated, as we previously discussed, and we have some funds in the reserve study, as you see in your packet, that can go towards that. As far as the new installation of cameras at CCFC, that would come out of a capital improvement.
So what this does is this buys the software that can be deployed all around Celebration as we want, and this is the new installation of cameras to be out at the Civic Corridor.
Correct.
And that's what we had talked about. Because eventually we had thought we would expand cameras as the need erupted.
Exactly.
So am I correct that there are 11 cameras at the complex?
Will be.
There would be 11?
There should be more than just the 11. That covers both the fields as well as the concession stand.
See,
I
18.
think that's total 18.
Where's
12 and 6. Right?
Correct. 18 total.
Oh, I see, the field building, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So this is split into two separate agenda items. The first one's for the VMS, and the second one is for the approval of the cameras.
And my motion was to approve the VMS to start with, for $34,680.30
You know-
as a replacement reserve.
The question had been raised at the last meeting when we talked about this, whether or not Artisan Park wanted to be involved. I went back to the Artisan Park Committee, they said they did not, they were satisfied with their security, so.
For the sake of the audience, the camera software we have right now is well past obsolete. So if anything goes on, trying to figure out what happened is darn near impossible. This software allows us to look at what happened, but it also allows us to have alerts and everything else so that we can actually be very proactive in security and knowing what happened. Correct statement?
Yes.
And
Expand it at a later date.
Yeah, and this is just one part of the overall assessment of cameras throughout the entire community. So October 4th at our workshop, there'll be an additional discussion about the remaining cameras in the remaining areas. For tonight, though, it was asked to just completely separate VMS so that we can move that forward and get the cameras up and running in the community complex.
Again, we've got a $5 million asset sitting out there. We actually want to be protecting it. Additional discussion from the board?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Dave. It passes unanimously. Okay, and then we've got the motion for the surveillance cameras.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Same two people. Any conversation on the cameras? Call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you. When does this get put in place? Sorry.
So close. It was so close.
I actually posed that question today. Obviously, they need to be set up as a vendor. Once we set them up as a vendor, that could take about a week to get all their information into the office, and we scan everything into the system. The other hurdle would be Osceola County's permitting. They said right now they're running at about a 2-week to 3-week delay. They have the essential information that they need to send over to Osceola County, so there could be just a 2-week delay before they get a final approval, since it is a low voltage installation. I'm not an electrician, but that's for the electrician to get in and do what they have.
So the permitting is for running all the electrical and all that type of stuff that's
Exactly.
required to do with it?
And as far as the staff, they have that on standby for this project, and they estimate that to be about a 3-week project to run the necessary cables, the point-to-point configurations from building to fields, and so on. So
Halloween to the middle of November.
yeah, we just
roughly.
want to get them going. I basically told them that I would let them know tonight via email that, yay or nay, how it went here at the meeting, and they will begin processing everything tomorrow.
And I feel like we have to put an asterisk anytime we're working with a third-party vendor. We will do our best to continue to push for that to be done by that time frame. There's always obstacles and things that happen throughout that process. And if we come across that, we'll update the board and the community on the time frame for that.
And a follow-up question, this might be more Steve. How long will it take to set up as a vendor? That's CCMC corporate, correct?
It's about a week process,
So it
just
takes
to make
about a
sure we
week
get
for
all the
that?
paperwork and everything.
So we're looking about 4 to 6 weeks, okay?
Okay.
Cool.
And that's just to make sure they have proper insurance.
It's
and
a
all that
best
stuff.
practice to make sure that.
Right, but I'm just
No, it's
clarifying
good.
for the residents, the reason why we have to go through that is to make sure that we have, that they have proper insurance and all of that stuff, and licensing for what they're doing.
Okay. Grab a seat so we can ask you a bit of questions. Okay,
I'd like to ask that we put action items 1.3 through 10 inclusive on a consent agenda.
anybody have a problem with that?
1.3 to what?
To item 10 inclusive.
I'll second. Go ahead, David, what were you saying?
I have a discussion item on action item 8.
Okay, so let's pull 8 out.
So, 1 through 10 except number 8.
1 point,
I have 5.
you have 5?
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody good with that?
So 1.3 through 10, we're pulling 5 and 8 for separate discussion. So
Yep.
you'll consent everything except 5 and 8. We'll do those second.
Yep.
Okay. Motion for,
That was my motion.
And I second.
okay, Jackson's motion and a second. So 1.3 through 10 with the exception of 5 and 8. Any conversation?
I have just one question. Is this a standard boilerplate contract on the Celebration Soccer Stars?
For all of your recreation
They're all-
contracts, and those were just updated a year or so ago
Okay.
through your legal counsel.
Okay.
One
Oh,
second.
I'm sorry, can we pull 2?
Can we pull which one?
2?
2, is that the one that you just commented on, Juan?
The one I just commented on? Which one?
The Tropic Soccer?
No, not Tropics, number 1.3.
Yeah, it's numbered differently.
I just have a question about the contract, if it was the standard contract that's already been reviewed by our attorneys, and it's the boilerplate version that we use.
Since it's already motioned and seconded, do you have any questions on 2 specifically you'd like me to answer?
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand, so that entity is a third party, of course, they would go ahead and operate. Do they subcontract as well?
No.
They do not? Okay.
That's our current soccer team.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And,
That's what I thought,
so
so.
let me just be clear, though, maybe some referees and things like that, and some of their.
But not like
higher level
another
coaches.
operator?
No,
No.
and they'd be
Okay.
operating them.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other comments? Motion, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, let's go to action item number 5.
Motion to approve the benches, trash receptacles.
I'll second. We already talked.
Kevin is second. Okay, so go
We
ahead,
talked
Kevin.
briefly, I was showing Todd something on Monday, happened to be at a meeting, and I was out in California for the weekend, and I saw something really impressive, which was a trash bin. This is ridiculous, this is my vacation. Trash bin. I know, it was in Nevada City, it was a really cute place, but they had a trash bin look just like ours. And a big thing that we keep discussing is recycling here. And so the recycling bins that we do have, few and far between, are pretty ugly, if you guys have seen them. They're this PVC or this plastic, whatever the case is. The conversation of actual recycling is an entirely different subject, because that's questionable at best. But the trash can that I did show Todd pictures of, people probably thought I was out of my mind over there, had a nice little logo. It had a trash and recycling in the top bin. Just like if you look at our trash bins now, you have a metal bin, a metal cover, and it was split. And then inside, it was 2 separate containers as well. So if we're going to start going down the path of replacing these trash cans or whatever it might be, let's start looking at not just what we put in '94. Let's start looking today forward and what's out there. So I did want to share with the board that I had that conversation with Todd.
I think Disney has those split cans, don't they?
At some places.
I thought,
But this one looks identical to what we have, and it might even be able to be a quick retrofit, so.
Well, I did some research on it, got a price today. This is just a generic sample of what it would be. It's 2 separate trash cans that would fit in this receptacle that we're proposing. Has a separate lid with just a hole in it, so you can put bottles and glass in it, and then trash on the other side, so it would separate it out. So that would accomplish it. But Demore, who is our vendor that's approved for the celebration, jumps up like $668 for this, which I think is crazy. So if you do want to go that direction, I want to do more research and find, because I know we can find lids that accomplish the same task.
The cost, though, for our trash service will also increase if we do that, correct?
Shouldn't.
Well, I spoke to Ken Lee today.
Okay.
Because, I asked him, he has all the history on the trash, he has trash on the town. He told me, thank you very much. He told me, about 10 years ago, they tried recycling throughout the parks, and it fizzled out for the simple fact that we can't seem to get residents or guests of the town to put the right trash in the right hole. When they do that, it contaminates the recycle and it has to go in the regular trash.
And nobody sorts.
No, so the only way that we would be able to accomplish this task would be to have staff to sort through the trash.
no.
It's the same
So allow
obstacle
me-
we're facing with the recycling bin.
Allow me to go here, and David, you might be able to help me out. What happens with the current can that's in North Village, as an example, that is set up there for recycling? It doesn't match our community in any capacity. So do we just get rid of it? Is that stuff being recycled?
I would no, it is not. It's
So it's a
it's a
recycling
warm and
bin.
fuzzy feeling, but it goes to the same dump as all the rest of it.
Because it's all
Because it's
contaminated.
contaminated.
By the way, when residents do not put the right materials in their bins that are going to
Same
the
thing.
curb, it's the
Same
same exact
thing.
thing happening with.
No, I understand that. I'm just saying that if we're gonna have a recycling bin and it's not even gonna be nice looking and we're not recycling, why do we have it?
It would be nice to, delete them from the process.
The issue with recycling is once all the recycling, a whole bunch of stuff used to go to China, and for a lot of political
Right.
reasons, nothing's going to China now, so recycling is almost nothing. But what you send to recycling is more expensive than regular trash, and if they don't, they'll do some sorting, but most of it they'll just throw into trash anyway, so you pay more to have stuff put in trash than you would have paid if you just put it in trash to begin with.
Yes, so if we're not gonna go the path of that, which I understand the cost, why fake
Well, we certainly
recycling?
can look at those, because I agree with you,
As
they're
we
kind of
currently
an
do.
eyesore, so we can look at pulling those and making sure there's some trash receptacles in those areas.
I think it's a good idea.
Thank
About
you.
having
Oh,
Ken-
we haven't.
What about having Ken come to a workshop, maybe, and talk about the whole recycling process for Celebration?
I would say, however, that the trash receptacles in Artisan Park in the Craftsman area do need to be replaced. And so we may not be ready to go full bore into what Kevin's talking about, but we do need to do something there now.
Correct.
No, we had a motion in a second, right? Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Item 8.
Motion to accept.
Second.
That was Vanessa and Jackson. All right, talk to us about termite bonds.
Okay, so Spring Lake was built in phases, and as 3 phases to be exact. And as David Weekley finished those, they used a company called Home Team Pest Defense. And for some reason, I don't know why, but one phase had the Centricon systems, which I guess are these pods that go in the ground, and they kind of a better system. And then the one phase only had the spray. So it's actually it's actually phase 2 that had the spray. So what happened is some kind of miscommunication fell through as the community finished, and Home Team Pest Control, the warranties, we found out recently that the warranties expired, but they were sending the bills to somewhere other than us. Well, I have been to corporate, I can't figure out where the bills went to. They admit that they don't know either. So what we did, and of course, because it's in different phases, they were paid in different stages. So what we did is this contract here brings everything on one timeline. It brings all of them up to Centricom, and then it's paid annually at one point. And that just organizes all the bonds, all the information, and all the warranties.
And a lesson learned for Island Village.
Yes.
So where will the bills go this time?
They're gonna come straight to me.
Does Spring Lake agree with your recommendation?
Does Spring Lake agree?
Yeah. Are they paying, this is Spring Lake expenditure.
Yeah, it is a service area payment, but the annual fee will go down. We didn't ask the homeowners. Termite bond is part of the supplemental declaration. We're obligated to provide that. So this is the most
The reason I'm
efficient way
asking
to
is
get
the
to bring
budget,
it up to-
the budget amount says 0. So is this, how is this being paid? Or what I'm looking at shows 0.
On the cover sheet, this is a budgeted item that are on each one of the.
Well, this payment right here is an initial payment to get everything up to snuff, up to the same level. The $9,600 renewal fee will be on the budget for termite bond annually. This is the $1,760 is to bring up the homes that were lacking the warranty that fell through the cracks from David Weekley and the developer.
Because they expired.
So
you had
I'll ask my
expired
question,
over- yeah, no.
I'll ask my question a different way. Do they have the money to pay for this?
Yes.
And then
Yes.
gets everything up to speed? So you've worked with the people, they know it's coming, and
I have not worked with the homeowners, no.
The money's there. to
Yes,
pay for
the
this.
money's
So
there.
they're not getting special assessed, there's no new assessments
Yeah.
for this.
So
Well,
this-
the termite is something that is expected based upon
Yes.
what they've done in the
The
past.
homeowners definitely expect this, but because of the way it was phased and the company and David Weekley built, some of them fell through the cracks. We're trying to make sure every homeowner has the same quality termite bond that starts and expires at the same time, so that we can keep track and make sure that their budget and assessments are the same for termite bonds. This money is a one-time payment to bring that up to the same stage. Then the budget has $9,600 annually to pay for the renewal
So
of the termite bonds.
I do have a question, because the comment was about it expired. I'm looking at the summary sheet, and it shows both active, expired, and some that were canceled. Could you help me understand the canceled ones?
Right, so Home Team Pest says that some of the bonds were canceled,
Because
not
they
by
expired.
us. They expired, that's their word.
This
They
one is saying
expired.
canceled, and then underneath the last paid, it has X's. Was there an accounting oversight, and
Last
it was
paid.
missed that way?
So they weren't sending they were sending the bills to somewhere else. So they expired, and they didn't send the cancellation notices to us either. They haven't sent the last bill or the cancellation notice to us. We don't know where they went, so that's why we're trying to, and it's unfortunate because the warranties are supposed to be 5 years, and at this point, it's only been 4 years for some of those homes.
So on the contact information of this here, it's showing me a P.O. Box 302 in Broadway, New Jersey, with your name. What's that?
That's the address you send for Aspen for our invoice processing
That's
system.
corporate accounting, where all the bills
the
go.
invoices need to go through the Aspen system for
They have a
invoice processing.
lockbox type approach.
It's not uncommon for invoice
No, I
processing.
understand that. I'm just trying to make sure that we know we're going to receive it again. Because we're starting fresh essentially on all of these fees.
On some of
That's why
them,
it's-
yeah.
Total cost is 17.9, and then the annual renewal fee after that is 9.7. So that's what I'm just trying to,
And they will definitely come directly to Susanna through that system.
yeah, because once termites, that expires, they have to start fresh.
It happens with your home, too?
Happens with everyone. If you don't pay the bill, start fresh again.
Other questions?
Lights go out.
This is David, I have a comment. The reason I wanted to have us discuss this so we can go into a little more detail, but also to, as I think it was Vanessa who said, implications for Island Village, lessons learned for Island Village as we move forward. So how do we make sure that that is covered? Or that the madam covers it, and then whatever the term is gets carried?
I think.
Gets carried forward?
Yeah, I think definitely management will definitely need to be more involved in the beginning stages to make sure that that transition happens smoothly as each phase gets turned over. And, working with one company, they need to bring them on like as a step process instead of, in different chunks. So as you build on phase one and the next phase, you're still in one policy that you can manage it better.
Well, and they talked to us a little bit today about 2 different service areas, townhome type service areas within the first phase. Still very preliminary, but that's where your supplemental documents will be taking place. And so we'll have a lot more opportunity to have full conversations with them about what those look like and lessons learned from Spring Lake.
I think David will be willing, Dave seems very willing to have those conversations too, which is good.
And now, one final thing, I'm sorry, because the reason that this came up, the rationale I think I saw in here, said something about an owner saw a termite?
Yes.
And now on the bottom of the contract here, additional comments, it says expired canceled building unit may have to be inspected to see if there's any current damage, because that will all be excluded. Is the unit that the owner saw this one that has remained active?
No. So theirs did expire.
But have you had the inspection yet or not for that particular property?
We've had someone go out there and have an inspection.
And there was no termite damage, or there was?
There was termite, there's no active termites, but there was termite damage.
These are the types of things that I wish that we had all the information up front, all the time, when we have these conversations.
So there's going to need to be an inspection.
Yes, well, that's part of starting the new warranty for the termites, will be to go out to the different buildings and inspect. That's standard when you start a new warranty.
So if we have to do termite repairs to that property in order to get new termite coverage, who pays for those repairs?
That'll probably be discussed with management and come out of.
Yeah, we'd have to talk to Susan about, most likely it's a service area expense, and we can look to David Weekly on why those were being sent to the wrong billing. I could just have that conversation with them.
Were they ever paid by CROA in any capacity? Or were these just never paid by CROA and they were only paid by David Weekly at all times? Which was it?
Any service areas would pay directly for their termite bonds. It's not a CROA expenditure.
I understand, the
some that-
billing.
So in other words, what you're at, there were some paid by David Weekly, and there were some paid by the service areas. So there were some that expired and were canceled, and nobody was notified.
And those were all the David Weekly ones, or were they ours too? Were they already being billed to the service area? That's the
That's
question.
what I'm trying to figure
Okay.
out. Did the service area ever cut a check for these?
So we have been billed for some of the termite bonds on some of the units, obviously the ones that are probably still active. But there are some through David Weekly that expired that the association never took.
And that's-
So it stopped at David Weekly.
So that's the expired. Now how about the canceled? They canceled
Same
for no
thing.
payment.
That same thing from David Weekly, they canceled it because David Weekly didn't pay, and they didn't send them to the association either. They don't know where these cancellation notices, they don't know where the bills went to.
And that was the house, the property that had the damage was from one of those that was
That's one of
canceled,
those.
that was never paid through the service area, only through David Weekly. Okay.
I'd like
Any
to
questions?
ask the board, if I may, after we close this out, to go ahead and have management review every property that CROA and a service area has a termite bond or protection for, have it reviewed, and everything is paid up to date, because this is a very expensive mistake.
Yeah, no, I agree. Fine.
And just for my own clarity, was David Weekly responsible contractually to pay for this termite bond and coverage?
Contractually, I honestly don't know the answer to that. I know that they were paying them. And then as the phases concluded, they stopped paying them.
Well, as
They
soon as it
should
pro-
have been transferred.
My guess is it probably switched over as soon as David Weekly turned everything over to CROA, basically.
Right, but
Okay. We
the
beat it to
paperwork
death.
didn't go to the right place.
Kevin's request is a very fair one. Let's
Okay.
let's get a request, let's get that update to talk about at a future board meeting or workshop, whichever we can be ready for.
Okay.
Thank you.
Motion to approve, well, we've already got the
Got a motion
motion.
and a
All in
second.
favor of paying the 17,000?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes unanimously.
All right, now, next item is finding, Steve, I didn't get the new package.
First 11, item 11.
How many are there?
Finding process.
I believe we're down to 65 non-compliant items.
Okay, 65 non-compliant.
Motion to
items.
approve.
Wait.
Yes.
10 was part
That
of
was part of our group. That was part of our law. Sorry.
Just a reduction, so I was all right with that group. Okay,
I
any
moved-
conversation?
I moved, oh.
Who seconded?
I'll second.
Vanessa second. Any conversation?
Can somebody share some information on number 1, please? I don't believe that was on the report on Monday.
Number 1 was taken off.
Taken off.
It's been removed.
Is that the one you mean?
Yeah.
It's off.
Are you asking why was it taken off?
Yeah,
It was- They fixed it.
They fixed it. Right. No? Oh.
And when did that item open up?
Says 8/14/2019.
What was it?
It was a
Go ahead.
very small light-up snowman that was on a balcony that somehow we just never happened to catch, and no resident told us about it until August. So,
Should that have a unit number?
yes, it should. That was a
Thank
typo, but
Especially if you were going to move it forward, but again, it has been addressed and
yeah, it
removed
was,
from the list.
we do have confirmation it was removed, so.
Okay, is there any?
We'll talk later.
Okay, fine. Any other conversation? Call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
No objections. Passed unanimously. Okay, item 12. Motion to approve to convert one fine to a specific assessment.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any conversation? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, passes unanimously. Item 13, 3 service area intent to lien letters. Motion?
So moved.
I'll second it. Any conversation? Call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, passes. 1 second here. Item number 14? Dang it. This damn thing is driving me.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Did
Go
did we
ahead.
get anything out of that number 2? I mean,
Those are fines.
I know, but did we come out with anything, or did we lose it all?
No, I believe that those are
can't.
uncollectible, and that's why the attorney's
That's why
saying
they
that you
said-
have to write them off.
Yep.
Well, that's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Was the work completed on, I mean, were these fines for covenant violations?
If they were, then I'd have to ask Laura to come up, but for it looks like the property was sold. So
Yeah, it
the
does say the
homeowner
property's
was
been
over.
brought into compliance. I want to confirm that
Right,
that's
that's
the
what I'm
case.
saying, the property was
Okay.
sold, so the new homeowner would have to.
We waived 50% of the balance due, but I thought we collected the other 50%.
But it's on here if you want.
Because we discussed this at an appeal,
We did.
a meeting, I remember that.
We did.
You talking about number 2?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, the original fine was 20,000, so we're writing off 12,000.
I was gonna say, I thought we had collected half.
So the estoppel went to the new owner.
That's the way it looks to me. Is that right?
It is?
What we can
Okay.
do is, Laura's gonna have to go back and look up the paperwork, but again, these are properties, this is attorney recommended, meaning the attorney can't collect on it. So
I understand, but I remember when we did the meeting, that we wrote off, it was brought to us.
Our process is to check with Laura before any of this is okay with the attorney.
No, I'm pretty certain we collected half, because Vaughn had asked, did we give up everything? I don't think we gave up everything. I think when we had the meeting, we collected 50% and agreed to write off 50%.
I actually think you're right.
Because it was bringing closure to a
Yeah.
problem item.
Yep. Yep.
But you can confirm that.
Yeah, we'll go back and look at that property.
Okay, any other comment? Call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Okay, next item. For some reason, my computer's screwing up, so what's the number?
You're on number 15.
Okay, motion.
15A if you'd like.
What was your question? What'd you say, Steve? I'm sorry.
You can do 15A and B
Okay.
together if you have separate questions.
Move to approve 15A and B.
Second.
Comments? Any comments?
Can we just look,
Just
give me a minute to?
Yep.
I want to make sure.
I mean, we're collecting a substantial amount.
20, okay, 25.
And I'm assuming at this point that all the items in non-compliance have not yet been brought current on that first property for the
That's what
legal
we'll make-
request?
Yeah, we'll have to make sure, we'll have to ensure that they all brought up to compliance.
Okay.
That would be a stipulation of the.
Yeah, that's part of the stipulation, right?
Yeah.
Okay, call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay. Owner requested payment plan. Any comment?
Motion to approve.
I think we did 15A and B together.
You did, you've
So
already
we've already got a
approved that.
motion and a
We're on
second.
number, we're on 16.
We're on 15B.
No, we're on
Put them both
16.
together
16.
And approve them both.
Okay, well, okay,
Unless
we
you
were
wanna
talking
do
about
that.
A.
16.
Okay, fine. Item 16. Motion to approve was Jackson, second was Vanessa. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Okay, last item. Any board comments? Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
One quick thing.
Go ahead.
Something just to share is news. I learned Danny Bumpus, I don't know if you were there.
Who's here?
His firm, he already gave that this
Yeah.
morning?
Who's already here?
Perfect, sorry, I was at a town center Lexington meeting, so
Okay.
that's why I was late. That was fun.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, Vanessa. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, folks.
Thank
David, have a good